Yes, my name is Carsten. I work together with Vibeke on the Viking ship museum in Denmark, and we also work together on the Sea Stallion when we sailed that to Dublin. Vibeke has told you about how we work when we reconstruct. I will tell you how we work when we sail with the boats and why we do it. As Vibeke said, the Sea Stallion, or as it is in Danish, havhingsten, was one of the 5 Skuldelev ships found in the fjord, and they were scuttled up in the middle of the fjord, a place where it was very narrow and very shallow, to block the fjord so they could control who sailed into Roskilde. I have some few pictures about how it looked when they found the ships. You can see there was hundreds of thousands of small pieces, and it took, how long did it take? 30 years to make the puzzle, and even more before we found out how they were. And as Vibeke described, you can find there's many ways of finding the dates, the dating on the boat. And this is dendrodating with these earrings Vibeke explained. And the Skuldelev 2, which we later called the Sea Stallion, turned out to be from the Dublin area, somewhere near Dublin. And this is a reconstruction of how Dublin looked. And Dublin is founded by the Vikings, actually. The ship came up, and all this work with reconstruction of the boat went on, and they started to build the boat. And of course, there's a lot of things that you have to do. Here's what I make every day, all the ropes. And there's, Vibeke talked about it, color and decoration. And as you heard, we have reconstructed all the 5 boats yet, some of them more than once. And all these experiences we have from that were put into the Sea Stallion. But the Sea Stallion, we wanted to go a bit further. We wanted to, it came from Dublin. It's far away from Denmark and Roskilde. And to really understand the boat, we wanted to sail it back to its home waters, you can say. I think it's to understand how we work, it's important to. Today we are very focused on reading and understanding in here. But many things you have to learn, or you have to experience with your body. Everybody knows that if you want to play the piano, you can't read a book and learn it. You can learn a lot about music history, you can learn about the notes, but you can't play piano. Or if you want to play football, you can't read a book and learn to play football. You have to do it. And that's in a way the way we are thinking. Sometimes we have to do it, we have to build the boat. Maybe we find answers, but we also find very many new questions. And that's actually very important too, to find all the new questions you wouldn't find if you're just thinking of them. Try to do it. So here we wanted to sail the ship back, to understand the ship and to test the ship and to find out if, this is not a copy, it's a reconstruction. You saw how little there was left. So this is a kind of hypothesis, you can say. And we wanted to test this hypothesis. Are we somewhere near the truth? One thing we can say for sure, the original ship didn't look like this. But this is how it could have looked. And hopefully we are very close. But we're not sure. So we have to test if we are close. And how do we test it? We try it, and then maybe if something starts to break down all the time, it couldn't have been like that. So we have to look at it again and maybe try to change a little within the frame, you can say, of the find. And then we wanted to test the reconstruction more significantly, test the speed, the angle to the wind, how fast could it row, how did we fold the mast down and took it on, how long time did it take, and so on. And then, of course, with all history, what kind of perspectives would it give to understand the boat seen from these new angles? We were some good sailors, I would say, experienced sailors, but of course none of us had sailed a ship like this. The last time they did it, it was 800 years ago. They are dead, everybody. So we gathered a new crew, but we couldn't find enough people to man the ship who were skilled sailors. But maybe they couldn't 800 or 1,000 years ago. Maybe some of them were just forced to go out. But they were very used, or the leading figures on board were very used to sailing these ships. At that time, we were not. This was a new ship. We had to learn to sail this ship in the same time as we were teaching people to sail in general. So there's many things, and we had many things to learn. Also more logistic things, you could say. Here's our cooks. How do this ship? It was 30 meters long. It had 30 oars on each side, so there were 60 people who rowed it. And we were 65 on board. And 65 people need a lot of food when they're out all the time. And these two people, they made food for us in these two pots here. They should have a medal. We had a lot of, we met a weekend every month. We launched the ship in 2004, and then in 4, 5, and 6, we met in the summertime. We met once a month and sailed together. But it's in the fjord where the museum is, and it's very protected waters. But it was very good in the beginning, but we had to, we were going to Dublin, so we had to test it in a little harder conditions. And we were haunted by good weather in all these years. We had always sun and light winds. So we decided to go to Norway. In Norway it always rains and a lot of wind. So we went to Norway for 4 weeks. And in 4 weeks we had weather like this. Even when we sailed from Norway to Denmark, light winds and sun. So that was a bit scary. But we trained and we trained and we trained, and we adjusted the rigging, we adjusted the ways we thought we'd do things. We tried and failed and tried again with how to make food, how to sleep on board, how to live on board, lived so close together for so long time. But it became winter, and in the winter, Vibeke and I and one of the Norwegian crew member went went around to look at the places we were going to. Here we are in Orkney, and it's different from the quiet fjord in Roskilde. A lot of tidal currents and a lot of wind. We tried all our safety equipment. I mean, we are not Vikings. We are not out there to see how it is to die. We're out there to test the ship, and we can't lose all the people. So we had a lot of technical safety things. And the board of the museum decided we needed a following vessel for safety and for bringing technical equipment to measure things, and journalists and camera stuff and things like that. And then we had to find the crew. We've been sailing with a lot of people for the first couple of years, and then we had to choose the crew for the sailing to Dublin. The plan was to go from Denmark to Norway and Scotland down to Dublin the first year, 2007, stay there for the winter, have an exhibition in the National Museum of Ireland, and then go back in 2008 south of England. Of course, people need a lot of sailing experience, but who has sailing experience? Imagine us here, so close as that, for 6 weeks without the tent, going up and down 2-3 meters in rain, throwing up, going on the toilet, eating, sleeping, calling home, all together for 6 weeks. And then sailing in this open boat. We can't find so many with a big sailing experience. So that wasn't enough, and it wasn't realistic to get people enough with sailing experience. It was, as I told, some people who had it, but not all. Then of course you need some kind of physical strength. It's not necessary that everybody is like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I had a lot of women on board. Many people ask, did you have women on board? Yes, of course. We are a lot of people that can help each other, so it's not physical strength like a bodybuilder. It's you have to be able to take care of yourself. You have to be healthy, and then it's okay. And then, not least, social skills. If you are so close together, it doesn't matter if you are the world's best sailor, if 64 people end up hating you after 3 days. We have to be able to work together. And then some came with us for their special skills. We had a nurse, we had boat builders, we had the electricians, we had the cooks. And then, of course, commitment. Most of the people were volunteers. We were maybe 4 or 5 people employed by the museum, sailing with the ship. Everybody else did it in their spare time. And they used 180 days and nights on this project on 4 years. And the deal was, if you were in the project, you had to come every time for 4 years. So 180 days and nights. Actually, only 2 of them were there. All 180 days and nights. But more or less they were. And you had to join even with the more boring things, charring all the 2 kilometers of ropes and painting in the bottom of the boat, and yeah, you had to come. After the first 2 years with a lot of trial sailings, we went to Dublin. We had been haunted of this very, very good weather all the time. And the days up to the sailing to Dublin, the rain poured down. And a lot of people came to the museum, and there was hard northerly winds. But on the day we should go, the sun came. And the wind turned to south, and we had full sail, sailed out of the fjord. And when we left the fjord, some hours later, it started to rain. And then it rained for 6 weeks, day and night. We had 4 days. In these 6 weeks, we sailed from Roskilde to Dublin. We had 4 days and nights, 4.24 hours, without rain. Oh, it was a wet summer. And how do you make a scientific testing, a scientific experiment? That is what this talk is about, and just before I explain that, I show you a little film so you can feel a little about how it was. That's this is on the way home from Dublin. Yeah, you can see, it talks for itself. Sunday at noon, we left Wicklow in Ireland just before high tide. We got the tide with us for maybe 7 hours, and that was very good because there was no wind at all when we started out. So we were rowing for maybe 1.5, 2 hours, and then a little breeze came, and we hoisted the sail and sailed down the Irish coast, out in the Celtic Sea. And without there, this trip lasted 56 hours, I think. We actually got westerlies on the beam all the way down, and the wind from the side. They said force 5 to 6, but actually it was more.
It wasn't really a storm, but we run into the Atlantic rollers once we left the lee of Ireland, so we had quite a lot of swell on the side of the boat, so it was good sailing, but very interesting with the waves.
We have been in hard weather before. For instance, in the North Channel last year, when we were going down to Dublin. That time the wind was much harder, the wave was much higher, but it was only for 2, 3, 4 hours, and then we came over it. But these last 2 days, it was long stretch of sailing. Yeah, it never ended.
We'd never been out for quite as long in quite as heavy weather with the waves on side like we did the last 2 days. It was a tough couple of days.
We took a lot of water. We were bailing and bailing all the time with I think we used 5 to 6 pumps, and they were bailing all the time. The ship was rolling a lot and took water in both sides. and when it smashed into the waves, it came over like rain, heavy rain, up in the front of the ship.
I didn't get a lot of sleep, and I was spent. That's all you can say. I was pretty much spent.
It was cold, wet, but it was fun. Didn't get much sleep. A couple of hours.
Myself personally, I was pretty sick. I threw up a couple of times.
About half of the crew seasick. Many were very seasick, so they couldn't do anything. So some of them we brought over to the escort ship.
Take my hat off to the crew. They're a tough bunch of people all around there. Everybody just came through it with flying colors. They're a tough group of young men and women, and I'm happy to be with them.
The construction ship is very, very good, yeah. You can see the flexibility in the hulls. It really moves and bends, which is extremely good, because otherwise I think it would fall apart.
The ship, as usual, it came through it with flying colors. It was just a marvelous, marvelous ship to sail.
She's a very well-built ship, very, very seaworthy. I'm very pleased with her.
When you look back on it, you can say it was a good experience, but when you were living it, you might have just slightly different thoughts. It's a tough way to get through a couple of days.
Yeah. I wonder why we did it, Vibeke. When I see this. I mean, when you're out there, there is so many things to think of. And it's just over the edge from everyday life. So it's difficult to keep focus on the scientific program you have, and it's very easily to come out of track, if you know what I mean. Also, there is also a very big interest from the media. We had the BBC with us, we have the news with us, we had many the website exploded, and we always had to be there for the cameras, for people who asked, for the mayors coming down, welcoming us on the harbor. And still we had to write our logbooks, had to remember what we were there for. And it was not always easy. And we had a long trip. The first day we sailed from Roskilde to Kristiansand in Norway on 36 hours. It's an average in more than 7 knots. It's very, very fast in an average speed. As I told you, it started to rain, and up through the Danish water we had a lot of wind. 17 meters per second, I think it was. But from a good angle, sailed very fast, got very tired. In a certain time we thought that the wind would follow us, so we actually could go directly to the Orkney Islands. But fortunately it changed a bit, so we came into Norway. And we rested there for a couple of days, and when we sailed up the Norwegian coast, we were invited to a birthday party. The Norwegian Queen had birthday, and she had invited her friends from all over Europe, also her Danish friend on the royal yacht. So we had the Queen and the Prince on board in rain clothes. That was funny. And then we continued up the coast. Here we are sailing around the southern tip of Norway. And then a little up the coast, towards Stavanger, you can say. And then the hard weather came again. And then things started. Here, after a while, the rudder system broke down. We showed you some pictures about the rudder system, about these withies. On the Sea Stallion, it's in the back, it's very, very narrow. So, as I remember it, we didn't think it would be possible to twist a withy, a birch tree, so much so we could put it in there. So we used hemp rope, and often we use that at home, and we have never had problems with it. But as I said, everything is different out there. It's so much to come out on open sea. It's so much the strength or the forces on the boat are so big out there. Everything is harder. So it just broke, and yeah, it's difficult to see, but in the picture down here, if you were closer, you could see it's like a knife. It's just cut over, and I mean it can take maybe, I guess, 12-15 tons, this rope. But it's the movement and the water breaking it. It wasn't worn out in a way, it's just the movement. So what was wrong? As I told you, it was very narrow. You wouldn't think you could put a birch tree in there and tie a knot with it. But as many times we see that if we do it as they did, as we've seen they've done it, even if we think it's not possible, it becomes much better. So we made new withies, and we actually first changed it when we came to Dublin. But from Dublin, we sailed 430 nautical miles to Portsmouth, and then we changed it just to look if it was okay, and it was actually. We could have continued with that withy, but we changed it and sailed all the way back with the next withy. So it works very, very good. Another thing is the flexibility. You saw this film with the planks, how flexible it was, and all the ship is very, very flexible. I don't know if you can see it from down there, but the top picture, there the ship is between two waves. The waves are in the ends, and on the bottom, it's on top of one wave. And if you see the back stay, you can see this black thing here. It's just above the aft stay. And when it's here, the stay hangs like this, and here it's stretched. So even in that direction, the ship moves very much. In the beginning, when we were hoisting the sail, we can feel all the ship doing like this. When we tightened all the ropes up, if all 65 people went into the middle of the ship, we could tighten them 10 centimeters more. And in the beginning, when we sailed, we thought it was too loose, it was too flexible, and it was some points or some places in the ship it was more flexible than others. So it was not evenly in the boat. So we were worried that it would break one place. So again, we had to look on the reconstruction and see, can we do it in another way? We can't just find new modern methods. We have to look, is there anything we've missed, or maybe we could do it in another way? And there was, I can't go into details, but we could see on the original materials we could do it in another way. So we tried, and it really, really helped. We of course tried to sail like they did, but as I showed you, we had this modern safety equipment. We also have a lot of other equipment, communication equipment and so on. And before we sailed, we discussed other things we could investigate when we are out there. How will Viking clothes work in open sea? How did they navigate? But we ended up, we were out there to test the reconstruction of the hull, the ship, the rigging, and the people working there. If we mixed it with too many other things, it would be too much. So we had modern food, modern navigation equipment, and so on. And of course, that gives you another experience than if you did it 100% correct. But you have, I think, you have to choose one thing at a time. And one of the things happening here was that we had all this bad weather. All the rainy weather means westerly winds, and we were going to the west. And we are modern crew, modern people with modern jobs and modern educations. And the summer, when the summer is over, we have to go back on these educations and jobs. So we had these 6 or 7 weeks and no more. And now we have been waiting a lot here in Norway, Egersund. We stayed at the police station is just here. So it's their parking space. We are putting the tents up. And we waited there for 3 days, I think. And there was a gale from southwest and rain and rain and rain. And then suddenly the Met Office said, okay, now it's coming. Now it's starting with easterlies going south and then southwesterly. So maybe we could go to Orkney Islands or Scotland someplace. So we left with the tide in the middle of the night, rowed for 4 hours, and we came out on the coast and we lay there for 4 hours. There was no wind. 4 hours again, still no wind. Then we called the Met Office and they said, oh, good you called. A gale is coming from the west again. You have to hurry out of this area. And time was running out. We couldn't, I can show you the picture again. There is a canal through Scotland. If we were too late, we could, instead of going round Scotland, we could go through that canal, but it wasn't there in the Viking Age, so we would miss a lot if we went through that canal. And now it didn't look as if we would have easterly wind, and even if the Vikings are very good tacking against, or the Viking ships are very good tacking against the wind, it's not that it is a square sail, it's an open boat that brings a limit. You can't tack in hard weather for days and days and days. The water is coming in. It's simply too cold and too dangerous out there in open sea. So we decided to take a tow with the following ship. You can see how close to land we are. That's Norway. So we have been there for 8 hours just waiting for the wind. And then they said a gale is coming, but if you are somewhere out in the North Sea before a certain time, you will come out. So we towed for 24 hours, and then we were out of the area where the gale was, and it came a severe gale in all the North Sea, just not where we were. So after 24 hours, we hoisted the sail again and sailed in very North Sea-like weather, wind and fog, and it's a bird there coming to greet us. And we came to Orkney Island, stayed there for some days, and then we continued down the Scottish coast, and that was what we have been looking forward to, because there's a lot of tidal currents, a lot of wind coming from west again, with land a lee, and it's very difficult to sail up there. But fortunately we had, when we were rounding Cape Wrath, I mean, just the name, it's a harsh place to sail, but we rounded it in very, very good weather, like this actually. This is the Cape, just going to the left and continue for some days, then you're in Dublin. Then we sailed down in and outside all the islands in western Scotland. And if you like to sail, you should go over there, but bring a decked boat. And rain gear, yeah. It's a beautiful place to sail. But very challenging, because there is all these tidal currents and other dangerous things. Everywhere we came, people were so happy that we came. It was actually really touching how much it meant to people that we came in a ship like this. It really gives something. And here we came to a place they called the most remote pub in Dublin, or in Scotland. Yeah, there wasn't any road. You could only come there by boat. And when we came 1:30 in the night, there was a lot of music in the pub, a lot of people. Isle of Mull. And here you can see the currents. There's a lot of water going in and out. Here we have been rowing out, and then we anchor, and we have the mast down when we row out, so it doesn't take wind, and then we anchor and put up the mast and hoist the sail. And here's a low tide. You can see it's seals laying up there. And I mean, in 6 hours, all this is covered with water. So there's a lot of water coming in and out. And as I said in the beginning, we had to make some significant measures on speed and height to the wind and so on. And it's difficult to make when there is so much current. But when we came down to Islay, which is the most southern of the Hebrides, there was a place without so much current, and the wind was hard from the south. We couldn't come down in the Irish Sea, so we stayed there for 7 days in this distillery. And there is 7 distilleries in Islay. Maybe that was because we stayed there 7 days. But we used the time to make these test sailings. And what we do on them is different things. We try to tack, we try to row, and we measure everything we can measure. And we had a lot of instruments for that all over the ship, electronic equipment to collect the data, and to send, we got some funding for this, and one of the things we had to pay back was that we had to, in real time, tell the world about what we were doing out there. So we had a lot of equipment to send things home, so people could follow the ship every day. Every 15 minutes, we sent our position and speed and temperature and everything we sent home. And then small stories we wrote all over, and pictures and film. Every day we sent film home, so you can find it on our homepage. There is a film from every day. But for these scientific data, we also measured a lot by a data logger, but also by a logbook. We wrote everything down all the time, and then we were filming it. And you actually have to do all these things to understand what's happening, and I can show it in the next picture here. This is one sailing from Torquay to Portsmouth, and all this here, the yellow is our speed, and you can see the speed goes down, but the white and black up here is the wind speed. It's going up, and the yellow signs in the bottom here, you can see we reef the sail. What is happening here? We have more and more wind, and we sail slower and slower, but that's because we had to we were sailing in up here by the Needles in Isle of Wight. There's a lot of current when you sail in there, and you have to come with the current in, with the tide in. So we had to slow down. We were sailing too fast. We had to slow down to be there on the exact right time. And we wouldn't know that if we hadn't written it down. So we have to combine many things to find out what's really happening on board when we look at it when we come home. Of course, they didn't have tide tables or maps or anything that time. So, for instance, when we got that tow over the North Sea, everybody said, "Oh, did you use your engine?" Yes, but we cut that piece of the distance out of the scientific experiment, you can say. Almost nobody asks or comments the fact that we have so many navigational instruments, which I actually think makes a bigger difference from the sailing in the Viking Age until today. We have maps, we have electronic maps. We can see where we are all the time. We have GPS, everything. We have the tables where we can see when the current changes and so on. So it could be funny to make a trip once without all these things, but maybe not in these areas.
Weather forecast also.
What?
Weather forecast we have also.
Weather forecast we have, yeah. When we sail like this, we were staying on Islay and waiting to go down to the Irish Sea, to Isle of Man and Dublin, of course. And when you are on your way, you are in a certain kind of mode, and it's everybody is really into it when you have the wind and we can go. And when you are not, when we are just waiting for the wind, everybody goes into their own world in a way. So go out and take these rowing tests. It's very hard for people. And they were tired. We've been out for many weeks already. And then things start to happen between people on board. You know, a project like this, there's many different kind of people coming into a project like this. There's many dreamers, I would say, many people who they don't have an idea of what they are doing. And you try to choose people, and you choose people you know a lot about, maybe. But when you're out there, day out and day in, you're just so close. We all have I used to say we all have a kind of mask we take on. We have a certain role to play in our family, maybe another role to play in our job. Not because we are lying about ourselves, but because we have to. We can't be totally open and honest about everything all the time. We have to protect ourselves. But out there, when you've been together with people you shit together, you throw up together. This mask breaks down in a way, and it's very touching to see when people are so close as they are here in the picture, and one is starting to not break down, but to break this mask, and people sees him. They say, "Oh, I've seen you. I've seen where you are going, but don't worry, I've just been there. So I give you space." Oh, space. There's not much space, but in a mental space, and I'm over it, and it's a very special feeling, and it's a very special thing to see people come over it. The problem, and then everybody has seen who they really are. They think, because after 2 weeks more in the rain, the next mask break, that was who you thought you were. And you come very close. We live very close all the time. Here's how we make food. 60 people standing there getting food. If we could borrow a grill, we did that in the harbor. The lunch were organized in the different areas of the ship, but the breakfast and the dinner was served from the kitchen, you can say. They should really have a medal, these two cooks. When it was hard weather, it was high-tech food, hot water in this bag here, 3 minutes, then it's like mom made it. And here is our toilet. Unfortunately, this toilet bucket down there, it's between that green thing here. But if there's one sitting there, the head is up, and everybody's talking to you while you're sitting there. And sometimes people walk through it, the toilet. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. And here is the best room we have on board. And now it's not even very close. We were always sleeping. We tried to rest. We always had our rain clothes on and a life jacket. So we were always ready. When we were sailing. When we weren't sailing, some stayed in the boat and some stayed in tents ashore. Yeah, after Islay, we continued down south, and we got hard weather. It's up here. Port Ellen, that's on Islay, and then we go down to Isle of Man. And there with the green spot, we had really hard weather. You saw it on the film. And in the middle of everything, the rudder system broke down again. And the worst thing that can happen in an open boat like this, in big waves, we had 5 meters of waves, higher than this. That's if the boat turns aside to the waves go over, or it can do it. But it didn't. We're just lying there like a swan on the water, fixing the rudder. Yeah, but I thought now it ends, but it didn't. So we continued down to Isle of Man, and we came to Dublin. And this was so important for Dublin. They called it the Homecoming. You know, this was an Irish ship. It was built in 1042, and that was after they threw the Vikings out, or they regained the power themselves, you can say. And it was not least before the British. So this was their ship coming home. And I tell you, there were so many, 50,000-60,000 people on the quayside there, and when we passed a church, Dublin is up a river. When we passed the church, it started to ring, and the next church started to ring, and the next. In the end, all the churches in the town and the big church there in the middle were ringing. And when we passed these ships, suddenly all the horn, woo! It was a fantastic experience. All the people standing there. And people were crying. They were standing there on the quay crying. Funny. In the night, one night when we came, we lifted the boat out of the water, and inside the museum, this is more than 40 meters up in the air. And it came down in the museum and stood there all winter. And we were happy. And the next summer, 2008, we brought the ship and we sailed it home, down through the Celtic Sea to inside Scilly Islands and Land's End. This is where the film was taken. And it was not actually very hard weather, but it's on open sea, and the wind was actually quite good, but everything was wet. I think we bailed water out all the way down, and we counted the strokes to see if there can come more and more water in, or if it was critical, because if we opened down we couldn't see the water because there's stones as ballast and all our luggage, so we couldn't see the water. So we pumped until it was empty, and we counted all the strokes. So there was some taking care of that, and then counted that we bailed 20 tons of water out in 24 hours. Then we came down to Land's End, and this lighthouse is actually called Longhouse Lighthouse. Longship Lighthouse. So they've been there before. And we went to Torquay and to Portsmouth and up to Lowestoft, where we again had problems with the weather, but this time it was not rain, it was almost no wind, northeasterly, just against us, and we stayed there for 11 days, I think. Oh, it was boring. Ate a lot of ice and fish and chips. But suddenly the wind was there, and we sailed to the Netherlands. A cultural clash this is, I think. And we came back to Denmark, and we were of course very excited over how much people were interested in this project. We are just a small museum, and our webpage just went down in the beginning because so many was looking. When we came to Denmark again, So many people were gathered to visit us in every harbor we came to, and the homepage, we had 550 hits on the homepage per second. Incredible. So we were happy again, and then we came home. And now the ship, like all the other ships we have, are sailing with volunteers as a boat guild. Every ship has its own boat guild. So volunteers are coming, taking care of the ship and sailing them. Right now the ship is sailing around in Denmark on 3 weeks holiday. And we are still working on all the results we have from this sailing, you can say. Hopefully there will come a book about it. When I think of this project, this is a picture I think of. Scotland, a lot of clouds, and a small ship very long from home. Even if it's big, and it was the world's biggest one, it's still a small ship out there. And even if this trip is finished, it will continue somehow. And all the skills we have will continue, and maybe you can use it if you reconstruct the Salma ships here, or some other ships. You have some ships down here. Even cocks, yeah, the big ones. So this was what I wanted to tell you. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yep.